All right, and welcome to the Balance, our first of Saturday drops today. We're joined by Tony Donahue, the Tony D podcast and Unverified. He is on the road down to Alabama for the Children of Alabama IndyCar race. It seems like it's been a while since we've talked about IndyCar, but it's only been a week since they've been on the track. And so we're going to talk about that. Also, we got a whole two more drops of racing to talk about. We got more IndyCar to talk about with Derek Vance of the Push to Pass podcast. And NASCAR's in Martinsville. Steve Wilson, editor in chief of Speedway Digest, our official NASCAR driver, is also in Martinsville, and we're going to be talking with him later on today. But Tony, on the road down to Alabama, stop for your Chick-fil-A. You're good to go. How are you, sir?
You're good to go. Fourth race in the last 5 weeks, which I think is what IndyCar needed, was to get off to a good start, have some momentum. Those first three races with two new races on the 2026 schedule in St. Pete. And we're going for four different winners and four different in the first four races of the season.
I tell you what, it's going to be an exciting race, and like you said, it's good for them to get a break. But let's have a little preview of the last race. Kyle Kirkwood obviously edged out Alex Palou, and then of course Joseph Newgarden, Pato O'Ward, and Scott McLaughlin, Scotty Mack there. But Kyle Kirkwood coming into his own. Also, Will Power, even though he's doing some stuff too. Let's break us down to where we're at now. Where we're standing now with drivers and teams as we go into Alabama this weekend.
Yeah, I think all eyes kind of going into the season were on Will Power and what he could do with Andretti, and we know that Andretti's street course package has been one of the best on the grid, as we know. Kyle Kirkwood's won at streets in Nashville. He's won Long Beach. He's won at Detroit. We've been calling him the Concrete King, and it was a big weekend for Andretti at Arlington. They won the Indy next race, and then Marcus Ericsson qualifies on the pole for the first time in his career. Kirkwood wins. Will Power finishes third, so his first podium with Andretti, and then Ericsson finishes fourth. But, I think you kind of see the parity in IndyCar, and what IndyCar is looking for is less domination from Alex Palou. And where we are as we head to the fourth race is it's anybody's championship. And you really don't start thinking about championships. You really don't start thinking about the title until after the Indianapolis 500. But here with the jam-packed month of March, where you're going to have four races in the month. I mean, these are four very important races in a 18-round championship. This is 30% of the schedule. So, and plus it's on different tracks, right? You've got a street course at St. Pete to start the season. Then you go to a short oval where Joseph Newgarden's been so good lately and picks up the win. Then you go to a new track in Arlington, which was very interesting. The drivers raved about it. It was a little bit more bumpier than what they thought it was going to be, which I think the drivers liked. It added a little bit of character. Massive speed down the long straightaway, the speed trap where they hit about 187, and a very technical course that drivers liked. Kyle Kirkwood gets it done, and now we go to Barber, the first natural terrain road course on the schedule, which is sweeping turns. There's a lot of different elevation changes. There's the carousel type turn. So this is a very difficult technical track that really the best drivers at IndyCar will be the ones that are running up front this weekend.
Well, absolutely, and you mentioned Kyle Kirkwood and the dominance of what has been of Alex Palou, but this win wasn't just a win; it was a statement. Kyle Kirkwood has now moved to the top of the IndyCar Series standings, and he's proving that his street course powers, I guess you should say, translates into some high stakes road coasting racing. We talk about ringers from time to time. Would we say now that Kyle Kirkwood is an official ringer when it comes to road courses?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly street courses. He hasn't won on a natural road course yet, but I think with Kyle Kirkwood, he's got the championship lead. He was really the only driver last year that threw a few punches at Alex Palou, for lack of a better term, and being able to win races and kind of hang around. But can you do it consistently now? And after his win at Gateway last year, the season kind of went south for him. Obviously, the crash in Iowa comes to mind. It just really ruined their weekend. What do you reckon on that Saturday morning of practice? Didn't have a good Nashville towards the end of the year. Milwaukee was a middle of the pack run for him as well. So it's like, can you put a season together if you're Kyle Kirkwood to contend for this championship? He overcame some pit stop problems down in Arlington, which I thought was was huge. He had the raw speed. I mean, he cut a 10-second gap at about 8 laps out in Arlington. So that was big. So this is a big test. I think can he perform? Can he be up front on a road course where he's never had a win and he's never had a podium? All of his wins and podiums either came on ovals, short ovals, or street circuits.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's exciting to watch new drive. I'm an Alex Palou fan too, as well. Let's talk briefly. We'll get on to the Alabama racer. Let's talk about Will Power. Well, how do we think that? Of course, we always thought he would be a lifer with Penske, like many others, like Rick Mears and many others that we can name, but it just wasn't the case. But he's moved on over to Andretti, and that was kind of contentious, and we were kind of watching it about how do we feel about Will Power over at Andretti after leaving Penske.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes to an end, right? And we got towards the end of last season, and it was like, okay, they haven't negotiated a contract. Will's kind of holding out. Will wants to stay at Penske because who wouldn't want to stay at Penske? But
right,
you got to have a contract to be able to do that. And when you have a driver like Will Power, who won a race last year, obviously is one of the best qualifiers that IndyCar has ever seen. He wanted to be operating on more than a 1-year deal, and Andretti came to the table with 3 years. Said, "Hey, let's make this happen. Let's make the change. Let's bring you over." It's a team change. It's a Chevy to Honda change, and sometimes. That relationship, sometimes moving to a new team after being with another team for so long could take a lot of time, almost a full year to really get comfortable. But right off the bat, I mean, Will Power had a decent run at St. Pete. He was up towards the front at Phoenix before him and Christian Rasmussen had contact. And then obviously the podium at Arlington. So this is another good track for him. I think he'll be great at Long Beach. But I think the real measure of where Andretti is will come in the month of May at the 500, where 9th last year with Marcus Ericsson is the best they've qualified at Indy since 2021. Obviously, Ericsson finished second, 31st, second, and the results for Andretti at the Indianapolis 500 just haven't been where you would want that team to be. So I think the jury's still out until we get through the month of May on whether Kyle Kirkwood can compete for a championship, whether Will Power can win another Indianapolis 500, and if Marcus Ericsson ultimately can save his job as he's a free agent at the end of the season. And we know that Dennis Hogger is running for Dale Coyne Racing this year as a rookie while having a technical alliance and still under a contract with Andretti.
Well, we don't want to put the cart before the horse too much, but man, I tell you what, that would be awesome to see Will Power win another Indianapolis 500 under the Penske flag in the first time. I mean, there's a lot to go and a lot to talk about between now and then, but that would be a great storyline. You guys are headed down to Barber Motorsports. I know you're on the road right now. It's a very physical track. It has a massive elevations. Elevation changes. Sir, I can't even talk today. But really push and punish the driver's necks and arms. So tell me a little bit about the technical part of Barber. What makes it so difficult? And more importantly, what makes it such a fun place to, because it's a park. It's fun to go. I've been down there to the Alabama track before, and it is a fun place to be as a fan as well. Go ahead.
There's obviously a lot of scenic views. Obviously, Georgina became very famous 2 years ago when she fell from the bridge during the race. There's a lot of architecture.
I remember that. That was funny.
Architectural structure. There's obviously a huge spider that Mick Schumacher's making headlines because he said he didn't like what he saw. But I think ultimately it's very fast. There's a lot of fast corners. There's a lot of sweeping turns, and the elevation changed as you mentioned. And there's a lot of G-force, a lot of G-loads. And if you look at last year, there was no yellow flags. And 421 of the last 450 race laps have been run under green. So not only are you taking a physical toll on your body, there's really no time to recover or recharge during a race because there just simply hasn't been any yellow flags. So it's very fast and it's very easy. We saw it in practice yesterday. We'll see it in practice and qualifying today, and certainly in the race coming up tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of runoffs. There's going to be a lot of cars spinning. There's going to be a lot of cars that have huge wiggles, have huge moments, and those can turn disastrous quickly. So you got to be able to stay on the track, that's for sure.
Let's talk about some drivers to watch in Alabama. Obviously, Scott McLaughlin with Team Penske, the defending race winner. McLaughlin loves the track and has historically finds the flow better than almost anyone else in there. Scott McLaughlin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's my pick for the weekend. I think he's one of those drivers that, hasn't won a race since the end of 2024. And you go back to last year's Team Penske season, Power and Newgarden still won races. And we're waiting for McLaughlin to get back on top of that podium and get a victory. I think he's obviously one of the favorites this weekend. But putting a race weekend together was something that he couldn't do last year. It's like he would qualify well and then finish 4 or 5 spots behind where he qualified, or he qualified towards the back and he'd make some moves and have a better finish. So putting together a full 3 days, I think, is going to be huge for McLaughlin, which he's already done. It's already been a good start. He was P1 at practice yesterday.
Pato O'Ward, he's with Arrow McLaren. He's very aggressive, and Barber rewards that late breaking style. He's been knocking on the door of a win all season, and currently sets a 4th in points. Pato O'Ward.
Yeah, Pato O'Ward's been in the top 5 at all 3 races. He's won here at Barber. He had a moment yesterday that he lost the back end. So, I think there's drivers like Will Power and Pato O'Ward and Scotty McLaughlin and even David Malukas in his first year of Penske that you're waiting to get that win. You're waiting to, there's only 18 wins available on the season. 3 have already been taken. So you've only got 15 more chances to find victory circle and to stay up there with the points. And right now, Scott Dixon's the guy as well. This is one of the few tracks on the schedule that he hasn't won at. He's been in the top 5 12 times. He's been on the podium 7 times at Barber, but he's not won. So drivers like Pato and Will Power and McLaughlin and Scott Dixon are drivers that are that's for wins.
I know you're driving, Tony. Are you still with us?
We're here. Hello.
Hey, okay. You cut out at the very last part, but I know you're driving. We'll move on. Let's talk about Romain Grosjean. He's with Hugo's. He had a podium success. He's had a podium success at Barber before, and I like him to be a good dark horse pick for a top 5 finish.
Yeah, there's drivers that have came over from Europe, and then they said the Barber track as well as the Indy GP and Road America are the most European style feel to a track. You've got sweeping corners, you've got high speed, traps. You've got a lot of elevation changes, which is similar to a lot of tracks in Europe. So even a guy like Mick Schumacher, I think this is going to be his best opportunity to score a top 12 to start the season, because I think this track will bode well to his driving style, and those drivers that have that European background, that spent a lot of time in their teens and early 20s running those tracks in Europe. I think this really bodes well for their style. So Grosjean is a guy that you would look at. Even his rookie teammate at Dale Coyne Racing and Dennis Hauger could have a good weekend. And as I mentioned, Mick Schumacher is also somebody that I'm looking at to maybe.
Yeah.
He's got a new engineer this week. Maybe we see if he was kind of out to lunch in Arlington, faded towards the back of the field when he qualified on the second row at Phoenix, and obviously didn't get to complete a lap after Stingray Robb went bowling and used him as a pin. It's one of those things where you look at those drivers to get their best result of the early season.
We talked about how challenging Barber is. How it's a big challenge for tire management in a track like Barber. If the sun stays out and the track surface gets greasy, that final 15 laps, which is huge, is going to be a survival test for all teams. Do you think tire management is a big problem here at Barber this weekend?
I think you have to put the strategy right, and if you look at the last couple of years, there's obviously been very, very minimal yellow flags, which means maybe longer stints, which means the black tires is what you want to be on. So I think the winning strategy will be start on blacks and end on blacks. Maybe you get a yellow where you're on the reds and you can pit early, but with a 3-stop race, I think it's going to be a black race. But if things get going early and there's yellows and there's crashes and there's spins and you're mid-pack, maybe you pit early and try to break it up. So I think you're certainly going to have to manage the tire, especially if we see long green flag runs. And as I mentioned, that's been the history of this place since 2021. We've seen 421 green laps over 450. So not a lot of yellows down here at Barber.
All right, let's move on here. Got you for just a few more minutes. We're talking to Tony Donahue, the Tony D Podcast and Unverified. They are on the road down to Alabama, but it is never too early, Tony, to be talking about the Indianapolis 500. I got a notification yesterday that we've got our creds in. They're ready to go. The Carb Day performance is set up. Everything is ready to go. I think it's time we officially start our month of May. So our pre month of May, and teams that are really kind of split their focus between these road courses and the speedway aerodynamic kits, if you will, and obviously Indy 500 being the best of the best of the best. We cannot start our conversations about the Indy 500 without talking about Joseph Newgarden. He's still the man to beat at IMS. He's currently third in the standings, and he's a strong. He needs a strong, clean run in Alabama. To keep his confidence high before heading home to Indy. Joseph Newgarden, Indy Watch. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's talked about it. He told me this after St. Pete. It's all about momentum and just getting better and getting better. And I think really where it starts, is obviously this weekend, but also a month from tomorrow is the Indy 500 test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And, it's not even, we call it a test, but it's really 2 practice days. I mean, it's full go.
Oh, exactly.
It's straight practice days. These cars are going to be ready to go. And I think the cool thing about the schedule this year is we don't run the Indy 500 test and then shoot down to Barber for a race or fly over to Long Beach for a race. It's like we're going to do the Indy 500 test, and those cars are going to stay in the garage inside of IMS until we come back, 2 weeks later for the IMS road course race. So, it's nice to not have to break that up. It's nice to not have to, kind of skip over. Like, you talk to a driver at the test and you want to talk about the 500, but you don't want to overlook Barber. So it's nice to have that month of May right around the corner right after that test.
Alex Below, obviously, everybody refers to him as Mr. Consistent because he is the most consistent driver on the field. He currently is second in points and rarely finishes outside the top 5. He's the betting favorite for the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. Again, obvious driver here to talk about as we go into our Indy Watch, but Alex Below.
Yeah, got his first oval win last year at the 500 and was really the best car towards the end. There was some strategy plays, some strategy calls that he had to overcome. And obviously the end of the 500 last year was kind of marred by 2 back marker drivers that were trying to stay on the lead lap, which is racing. That happens. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet any weekend against Alex Palou. Just how good he's been, just how great the strategy's been, and just how awesome his pit crew has been. I mean, this is a team, like, to win Indy, you have to have no mistakes. You have to have a perfect day. And then you have to have a little bit of luck behind you. And last year, obviously, with the pass on Marcus Ericsson late in the race and the hold on for the win, propelled him towards a 4th championship as well. But I'll say that it's very hard to go back to back. And if you look at Joseph Newgarden going back to back, obviously the late red flag to go green, white, checkered, green at the same time, and then checkered on that 1 lap run, that was kind of supposed put the race in Joseph's lap, but then you obviously look at the attenuator situation in 2024. I'm not saying that those were a huge difference in him winning, but they definitely played a factor in it. I think the first one where the red flag came out was more of a favor in the Joseph's hands than the attenuator the following year, but it's very hard to go back to back. We don't see it that often, so it'll be that much more impressive if Alex Palou can do it.
As we continue our conversations, as we get closer to May, we'll break down more drivers. But one more driver I did want to talk about. A lot of times we overlook Christian Lundgaard, but incredibly fast on road courses. He needs a really big result here in Alabama this weekend to jumpstart his season before the Indy GP, I should say. But still, Christian Lundgaard in Indy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the next 3 races for Lundgaard will be big. I mean, he had a pretty good season last year, although I think he ended up 5th in points, which is pretty good, better than he ever did at Ray Hall. He obviously has a race-winning car underneath him, so when can you break through and get that victory? I think we're waiting for it. This might be a place where it happens. He's been good at Alabama. He's been good at Portland. He's been good at Indy and Road America, which are all very similar racetracks. He was second here last year at his second podium for McLaren after he finished on the podium at Thermal Club. And then Long Beach, he's won on a street course before. The Indy GP, he's been on the front row. He started in the first 2 rows the last couple of years. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lundgaard in victory circle in one of the next 3 races.
All right, well, we're going to let you go because I know you're on the road down to Alabama. The race is tomorrow, Sunday at 1 o'clock, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's on Fox. Obviously, we're watching Kyle Kirkwood to hold off the Penske 3-headed monster, Newgarden, McLaughlin, and Power to retain his points lead. So a lot that we're watching. What are you guys working on? What's your final words of wisdom, sir, before we let you go?
I think McLaughlin's your winner tomorrow. If he can beat Palou, which is obviously what you say every race we get. If you're going to win, you're going to have to beat Alex Palou. He's been the guy. He's been the guy now for going on 5 years. Should be a competitive race. Maybe we'll see some split strategies. But I would love to see 4 different race winners to start the season and 4 different races. We've had 2 new pole winners, drivers that have never won pole before. So maybe we get a 3rd here later on today when they qualify. And I think Arizona beats Purdue tonight. I know a lot of your Indiana listeners may not want to hear that, but Arizona gets it done over Purdue.
Oh man, I tell you what, it was interesting to see how this. We didn't have much chance to talk about our brackets. I'll text you on how you're doing if you haven't checked. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I need Duke to lose today, big time, because that'll clear the path for UConn to win it all, and then that'll. I'm about the only one in the world still left that picked UConn, I think. So we shall see. Tony, where can people? Wait a minute. First of all, is Scott McLaughlin your $5 DraftKings pick of the week?
$5 on Scotty McLaughlin. There you go.
All righty. Tony, we appreciate you guys. Where can people find your work and masterpieces, sir?
Yep, just Tony D Indy on Twitter /X where all my stuff usually ends up, or check out the Tony D podcast at Unverified on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube.
All right, buddy. We appreciate you. You guys drive safe. Have a good race weekend.
Thanks, Tom. Talk to you soon.
See ya.